I believe this is a straddle to 1800. Was that right? Yeah, it is. It's like a $1,800 straddle, which is kind of strange. But Alan's picked up a real hand. I mean, Ryan opens, Handz calls with ace-jack, and Alan's picked up ace-queen. And he just no fear whatsoever. I love this guy.
Adding on two?
Not yet. Seems like it's going to go that way.
Then I guess I'll have to add on two. What do you think? Ryan's going to add on
I
two.
prefer not to, but it's 10K to see
Yeah, more. It's more.
Well, just in general.
Yeah. We're all going to end up by the end of the night.
And Alan is now up on the night.
When it starts like this,
Just his relentless aggression paying off. And he gets 7-8 of spades to fold, and he gets called by a hand that he's dominating. This worked out really well for Alan. Pot is 52,500. If an ace comes off.
Playing a $100, $200, $1,800 game. Alan Keating decided to straddle it up, playing, only $300,000 deep at 100, 200. I can't even count how many big blinds that is. Ryan, under the gun, raises it up to $4,000, about 2 big blinds, with 8-7 of spades, perfectly fine and good. Handz in the hijack. Decides to call with the ace-jack offsuit, which is probably fine. That said, I think when the stacks are this shallow, it's probably okay against Ryan, who only has $57,000 behind, to make it something like 12,000 and then fold if he shoves. You have to realize when we're playing this shallow, it's kind of like we're playing a tournament. Now, I do realize that Handz is very deep with Alan Keating, but when you make it $12,000, Alan's going to be out of the pot the majority of the time, so he doesn't really matter that much anymore. So I think I probably would have 3-bet the ace-jack offsuit and then folded to a shove. Whatever, though. He calls. Over around to Alan. He does not care. He makes it 24,000 with the ace-queen offsuit. Nothing better than when you straddle to 9 big blinds, you pick up the ace-queen offsuit. This is a tough spot because if he makes it 24,000 and then Ryan shoves for 33,000 more, Alan cannot fold. So it's almost like you're kind of pot committing yourself with this hand, which is sometimes ideal, sometimes not. It's nice to let your opponent know you're probably not folding. That said, if they know you're not folding, then when they get it in, ace-queen's actually not in that great a shape. I think he'd probably be better off making it slightly smaller and then still calling the shove, because then you're going to keep Ryan in the pot with some bluffs, like ace-x suited, that may decide to get after it. I do realize you will get called by him a little bit more often, but most people aren't going to put in 18,000 out of their 57 with much of anything, unless it's a pretty good hand to begin with, or if they think that you're super wide and you're getting out of line and they decide to bluff you super wide, right? I think when you go 24, though, you're really going to induce Ryan to play straightforwardly, which may be good, maybe not, I'm not sure. Anyway, 24,000 to go, says Alan. Ryan says, no, thank you with the 8-7 of spades. Over to Handz. He has a pretty junky spot here because he is going to be dominated by all of Alan's value hands, but Alan can certainly do this with more than just the nuts. The problem, though, here, right off the bat, is that he made it 24,000, and he was kind of committing himself against Ryan. So Alan must have something decent, right? If he must have something decent, then ace-jack is not as good as it would normally be. But look, these two players are both playing very deep stack. Handz also has $270,000, so they're playing super duper deep. And because they are playing super duper deep here, I think you probably need to call and head to the flop.
This pot could be enormous. Both players with over 248,000 in front of them. And whoa, are you kidding me? Ace-jack 7. Handz with top 2. Alan with top pair. And what could have been a dream scenario for Alan is now going to turn into a nightmare. Handz with 249,000 behind. How much goes in the pot? Pot is already 52K. Don't go anywhere. You're going to want to watch this one.
Seconds.
22.
22.
Handz did not 3-bet pre, so you don't put him on ace-king as much here. Alan check calls. Pot now 96,500.
Flop comes ace-jack 7. And I'm shocked to see Alan Keating check. I would presume he's going to bet this flop most of the time. But, you know, when you're out of position and you don't really know what your opponent's range looks like very clearly, it's kind of reasonable to check and just keep them in the pot with their entire range. Now, maybe he has some sort of read that Handz really likes to bluff when check to. We have seen Handz bluff a few times on this channel, at least one giant time that I recall. So maybe he's trying to do everything he can to force Handz into a spot where he's going to feel inclined to bluff with almost everything. That said, it's usually ideal to just continuation bet on ace-high boards when you have a lot of the ace-x in your range, which I have to presume is the case here. That said, he does check. Handz, with the nuts, decides to go 22,000. I think that's fine. This is a spot where once Alan checks, I would start to take out a lot of hands like ace-king and ace-queen from his range. And I would expect him to have a whole lot of weaker aces that are going to have a tough time putting in a lot of money, or hands like pocket kings, or queen-jack suited, stuff like that. So if that is what his range looks like, it's probably fine to go 22,000 into the roughly 50,000 pot. I think that's fine. There's a chance you just want to go bigger and start trying to load the money in. I do realize this is a very abnormal scenario because we are playing $270,000 deep in a 100-200 game. Maybe there are some bankroll concerns for some people in these situations where they just kind of want to end the pot. That said, I don't think you necessarily want to do that. There are some cash game players, though, who will sit down with literally all their money in a cash game. I used to play at Bellagio at 10-20 no limit, and there was this guy who would buy in for like whatever money he had in his box, which was like $70,000 at 10-20, and everybody else would be playing 5K deep or 2K deep, right? And one day, this guy somehow managed to get stacked against against a whale who came there with a bunch of money, and the guy who lost, the regular who buys him for all of his money, was so sad and depressed, and I did not see him for like a month and a half when he would normally play every single day. So some people actually do buy in for their whole bankroll when they play a cash game. Not a good strategy. I don't think either of these players are doing that, but if you are all in for all of your money, well, you have to be a little bit more risk averse. But if you don't care about risk because you're properly bankrolled and you play with a reasonably logical strategy, then I think the 2200 is good. Over to Alan. I think it's just a call at this point. He very easily could be against jacks or sevens or ace jack. He does have the best hand a lot, though. So in scenarios where you have the best hand a lot, but you could be beat, and you're not especially vulnerable to being outdrawn, like there is no flush draw or not very many logical straight draws here, at least to 8 outs, I think calling with Alan's hand is very, very nice. So I like the call, and he's going to do everything he can to keep hands in the pot.
I mean, if you have ace-queen, there's just not a lot you can beat except a bluff. Alan's picked up a gut shot now. He can catch a queen or a king.
Seconds.
$47.
47.
Yeah. So he bets about 40% on the flop. Here he goes, about 50%, just under. Action back over to Alan, who really can only beat a bluff at this point. He's going to call. This pot is now $190,000.
The turn is a tricky 10 because once Alan checks and hands goes 47,000, which I think is good, Alan doesn't beat a whole lot. He loses to ace-king if hands happens to have that. He loses to ace-jack and ace-10. Jack-10 suited for a random bluff on the flop that got there. He loses to 9-8 suited that decided to get splashy. He loses to king-queen, so he's really only beating king-10 and queen-10 that decided to bet the turn, which a lot of those may or may not. I don't know, man. Look, I'm not necessarily trying to fold the ace-queen here, but if there's ever a spot to make a nitty fold with top pair second kicker, it's on boards like this against strong ranges to line up really well with the board. Because really, what do we need hands to have here? We need hands to have like king-9 suited, queen-9 suited. I don't know. Do those even bet the flop? I don't know. We need to be turning pairs into bluffs. A lot of people don't do that, especially when there's a lot of money on the line. I don't know. This is a rough one. That said, if hands does like to find bluffs, then, top pair second kicker, what you gonna do? Let's head to the river.
Oh! Oh my gosh. I think if you're Alan, you got to bet. Because this is going to get checked back almost every time.
The river bails out Alan Keating. Surprise, surprise. Some people have all the luck. What I want to know is, what would you do in this situation on the river when you bink the nuts? Would you check, looking to check raise? Would you lead for 50,000? Would you lead for 100,000? Or would you lead for 180,000, putting hands all in? Let me know in the comment section down below.
I mean, I know it's not balanced or anything, but I think you've got to bet a little bit. Because you're just not going to get action otherwise. And, oh, man. Handz is just sick to his stomach.
10,000. The bet is 100,000.
Oh, what a sick run out. You're getting nearly 3-1. Handz had the goods, and now
10 seconds.
he's got trash. Just 2 pair in this 3-bet pot. Absolute nightmare scenario for Handz.
Adding 1 minute.
What do you guys think? Call, fold? What would you do? Alan 3-bet pre, which means almost nothing because he 3-bets with everything. He check called, though, the flop and the turn, and that does tell us something. And now leads the river. So you think of some of the hands he might have in the spot.
This is a fun spot for Alan, and going back to that idea of having perhaps too much money on the table, again, I don't know if that's Handz scenario or not, a lot of players don't want to get stacked for all their money. So, if Handz will call 100,000 with sets and 2 pair, but will fold sets 2 pair to all in, which I think a lot of people will do, then I hate the idea of going all in this situation. So the question becomes here, does Alan have any logical bluffs at all? What would he actually play in this way? Because his big problem here is that a lot of the bluffs that Handz could have a queen, right? So if a lot of the bluffs slash thin value slash overvalue Handz has just made the nuts, bluffing all that off in this scenario does not make a whole lot of sense. Typically, you want to be leading into the aggressor on the previous betting round when the card that comes is really, really good for your range and therefore really, really bad for their range. And I don't really think that's the case here. I mean, yeah, Alan could have like ace, queen, pocket queens, queen, jack, but so could Handz. So this is a spot where I'm not even sure Alan should be leading all that often, but we have seen Alan lead a decent amount of the time on the river when playing very deep stacked with the nuts or the effective nuts. And look, if this is a play we know he likes to make with the nuts, I think you just have a pretty easy fold. If this is a play he's going to make super duper balanced, then you just want to ask, am I blocking the queens? Okay, what queens would Alan play in this manner? Well, ace queen, queen jack, probably not queen 10. He just folds that on the flop, you got to presume, right? So, interestingly enough, I think this might actually be an okay hand to call with. Handz' ace jack, I mean. Because Handz blocks ace, queen, and queen jack. So, if we know Alan's going to find some bluffs in this scenario, with God knows what, I'm trying to even find the hands, but if Alan does find some bluffs in this spot, you definitely want to block his value combinations, and I think the ace jack actually blocks the value combinations pretty well. So, look, I would have just folded here. It's an annoying spot for sure, but if you think Alan's bluffing too often, this ace jack is a pretty excellent hand to call with. Let's see if Handz finds the call.
Getting nearly 3-1. Does Keating show up with a bluff often enough to make this call profitable? Oof. Sometimes it's just gross, though, because you look at that pot and you know that $145,000 in there is yours. Those are your babies. You don't want to desert them. There is a shot clock, by the way. Players have a certain amount of time to act on their hands. This little time chips behind them, behind their chips. So the dealer will ask him for his few of his time chips at the end of this one. But you understand why he's taking time on this one.
I fold.
And he announces.
How much? 2?
He announces the fold. Great laydown from Handz.
Handz makes the good laydown. Alan cannot show him the bluff. And Alan wins another sweet pot. If you want to watch another hand where Alan puts on a masterclass of value betting, we have a video for that somewhere around here. Click the button, check it out. That's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this hand. Good luck, have fun. Whenever you're drawing almost dead, I hope you bank your opponents on the river and win a load of money. If you enjoyed this video, before you leave, click the like and subscribe button. And I'll see you next time.